Hello, I'm Julie Coles and I'm taking over from Deb for the rest of the workshop. So Deb has looked at some unhelpful thought patterns. So we are going to start with using a CBT approach to start to challenge some of those very stressful thoughts. So let's get back to the PowerPoint. So Deb has been through with you some examples of some very stressful thoughts around exams, which might sound like things like everyone else is really well prepared, they know more than me, I need to know everything, and that really, really stressful one, I'm going to fail. So here are some examples of beginning to work with and challenge some of those stressful thoughts. What is the evidence for or against this thought? You can actually have 2 columns on a page and write down the evidence for and the evidence against. What is the best thing that can happen? What's the worst thing? And what's the most likely thing? Our mind usually goes to what is the worst thing that can happen. What would I tell a friend who had this thought? It's much easier for us to feel compassion for other people. So if we can visualize a friend who has this stressful thought, what would I say to them? It's a good way to trigger our self-compassion. How would the most calm, rational, supportive person you know react to this thought? What would they say? Visualize them in your mind. Hear what they would say to you. Are you worrying about an outcome you can't control versus what you do actually have some control or influence over? Some more examples of challenging, stressful thoughts. What does this thought do for you? How does it affect your feelings? How does it show up in your body? How does it affect your behaviour? Does it send you into procrastination? Is it helpful or is it just distressing? What good things might you gain if you let go of this thought? How might life be different if you didn't believe this thought? Is this thought helpful or useful to you? Is it actually workable in your life? Ask yourself, do I need to act on this thought? Ask yourself, what is my mind making up about this? Is this casual thought true and the worst outcome likely? That is it really as bad as you think? Is this thought a reality? Is it fact? Is it something I need to obey? Or is it a very old story that comes back into my life every time I have to face an exam? You might like to pause the video at this stage and just make some notes, or even make a note to yourself about coming back to this and using the worksheet that you'll find on one of the links provided. Another way of managing some very stressful thoughts is to use a mindfulness approach. And as you can see from the picture, is your mind completely full of just so many things? Or is it mindful? That is, are you in the present moment and not being carried away by stressful thoughts? So let's try an exercise that helps us with our diffusion of thoughts. Many of us have just so many thoughts going through our heads that it's really hard to relax and prioritise and do the things that we need to do.
The following exercises are about increasing your awareness of the present moment, what's happening right here, right now, instead of doing what we get caught up in so much of the time, which is thinking about what has already happened in the past or worrying about what we think might happen in the future. And you might have already discovered for yourself that when we get caught up with negative thoughts about the past or future, we can tend to make ourselves really stressed out. Being able to connect with the present moment, what is happening right here, right now, can help us to relate differently to thoughts about past and future events. Sometimes when we get caught up in our thoughts, we take them literally, like they're the truth. And what we're trying to do in this exercise is to see thoughts for what they are, just a group of words which may or may not be true, which may or may not be helpful. So we're noticing thoughts rather than being caught up in them, looking at thoughts rather than from them, and seeing thoughts as what they are, not as what they seem to be. Try each of these exercises for yourself and be open to how they might fit for you in your life. Each of us is different, and some of the things that work for one person may not work for another. Usually people find that one or two of these exercises really resonate for them, and with a bit of practice, they're able to use them in daily life to gain some distance from troubling thoughts. The first exercise is about letting thoughts come and go without getting caught up in them. Find a comfortable position to sit in, one that allows you to be both relaxed and alert, preferably with your spine straight but not rigid, your head balanced and shoulders relaxed. And gently close your eyes if this is comfortable, or just lower your gaze if you prefer. And just spend a moment reminding yourself of your motivation for doing this practice. Setting your intention to, as best you can, follow the instructions given. And remind yourself of the foundational attitudes of practice: patience, non-judging, and kindness towards yourself. Start by taking 3 conscious breaths. No need to change your breath. Doesn't need to be deep or long. Just be aware of the fact that you are breathing. Feel the breath as it enters and leaves your body. Feeling it at the nostrils, chest, abdomen. And as you breathe, imagine that you are lying on a lawn of soft, fresh green grass, looking up at a blue sky. Can you see the sky? Feel the blanket of soft grass beneath you. And now imagine that there is a gentle breeze blowing, and that it is slowly and gently blowing a procession of clouds through the sky, and that they're floating past you, one after the other, steadily floating past. And now if a thought drifts into your mind, imagine yourself placing it gently onto the surface of the cloud as it floats by, and allow it to drift past. If your thought happens to take the form of a picture, then place that picture on the surface of a cloud and watch it float on past. If your thought is made up of words, then see those words written on the surface of a cloud and let it float on past. Just noticing as it floats past you in the sky. That is all you need to do for this exercise. No matter what the thought, whether it's a thought like, I can't do this, or this is a silly exercise, or I'm worried about that exam coming up, just take that thought and place it on a cloud and let it drift on by. Try this for a few moments. If no thoughts or images are appearing, then just allow the clouds to keep floating by, one after the other. And if any kind of thought does pop up, just gently place it on a cloud and let it float on by. Your mind will probably chime in from time to time with a comment about what's happening or some other thought, and that's completely expected. The mind is just doing what it knows best, and it will happen time and time again. Each time this happens, simply notice the thought that's taken your attention, and then, like you did before, place it on a cloud that's floating by and carry on with the exercise. Time after time, a thought will grab your attention, and then you might notice that you've lost track of the exercise. This is completely expected. The moment you realize that your attention has wandered off with a thought, just notice that this has happened, and take that thought and place it on a cloud and carry on from where you left off. And now let's try something a bit different. The second exercise is to simply notice that you're having a thought and to name it. We don't often stop to reflect on our thoughts or even that we're having them. By noticing thoughts and naming them, we start to see them for what they are. A group of words which may or may not be true and may or may not be helpful. Just try this exercise and see what perspective it may offer on thoughts that cause you distress or worry. To begin with, first bring to mind an upsetting thought. Most of us carry some kind of negative story about ourselves that takes the form, I am, you fill in the blank. It might be a story like, I'm not smart enough to be at university, or I'll never make anything out of my life, or I'm a bad mother, or brother, or partner, etc. And we tend to play these thoughts over and over again to ourselves, and they upset us every time we think of them. If you're able to, and if it feels okay to do so, try to bring that thought to mind and just hold it there for a moment. And try to focus on it and feel it as much as you can. Just notice how this affects you. And now take that thought and in front of it insert the phrase, I'm having the thought that. So for example, you might say, I'm having the thought that I'm not smart enough to be at university. Or you might say, I'm having the thought that I'll never make anything out of my life. Whatever your own personal story is. Try this for yourself and just notice what happens. You can use this technique with any difficult thought that comes up. Anytime you notice yourself getting caught up with a negative thought, just say to yourself, I'm having the thought that, and insert whichever thought is most giving you trouble at the time. For some people, this technique helps them to step back a bit from thoughts and to remember that thoughts are just words, they're not necessarily the truth. And so we don't necessarily need to take them literally, as they may or may not be important in our lives. What is more important is whether a thought is helpful. What we need to ask ourselves is, does this thought help me to take action to create the life that I want? The third exercise involves putting a negative thought to the test by asking a number of questions about it. To start with, take a few moments to bring to mind a thought that is particularly troublesome for you at the moment. And like the last exercise, it might be something like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough to make it at university, or something of that nature, whatever thought tends to bother you the most. Spend a few moments mulling over this thought and just notice how you're feeling. And now ask yourself the following questions about this thought. Is this thought in any way useful or helpful to me? Have I heard this thought before? And what happened in the past when I bought into or believed this thought outright? Do I just want more of the same? Does this thought help me to connect with the things that matter most in the world to me, the things that I really value? Is this thought going to help me to be the kind of person I want to be, to live the kind of life I want to be living? Asking yourselves these kinds of questions about other troubling and negative thoughts can help you to step back from thoughts rather than getting caught up with them, and to remember that thoughts are just words, and they may or may not be true, they may or may not be important. We don't have to obey them, and we don't have to believe them. What is more important is how helpful they are to us, and whether they can help us to live the kind of life that we want to be living.
Was there an exercise there that you feel you'll be able to use when you have stressful thoughts? So now we'll move on to another way of challenging and managing those stressful thoughts that we have. And this is tactile distraction, which is really a short-term strategy that might provide you with some symptom relief. And it involves redirecting your attention from those stressful thoughts to, for example, physically grounding yourself. And that is bringing your attention away from the anxious thoughts and feelings by focusing on your physical self. So something to do with the senses, really. So it might be touch. What's in contact with your body? So as you're sitting here, feel the floor underneath your feet. Just notice the sensations. Notice the sensations of where the chair supports you against your back and the back of your legs. Notice the top on your shoulders. So this is an example of physically grounding yourself. You might also use a particular object, like a stone or a stress ball. Some people find that kind of tactile way of distracting themselves from stressful thinking really quite helpful. So perhaps you can think of one thing that you use that works already. Or if you haven't been using a distraction like this, perhaps you can think of something new. So again, distracting your attention away from your feelings by focusing on something external. For example, in the exam room, you could look around and count the seats in each row, or the number of students with a red shirt. That's just a couple of examples. You might look around the room and notice what's on the wall. Notice the clock. Notice the colour of the walls, any objects that are on the walls. So these are just some examples of using tactile distractions. So thinking about what both Deb and I have discussed so far, and your exam stress management plan up to this point. So at this point, it could be good to just write down 2 or 3 helpful thoughts or coping strategies and or a breathing or visualization exercise that you believe that you can use to help you in the lead up to exams. And also to think about what you can commit to. Perhaps you can commit to at least one thing, 1 or 2 things. So let's now go into some tips and skills that are very specific to exams, and let's look at what the experts say so that you can be exam ready. So This is a video that's on the Griffith Uni library website, in addition to another video, Exam Preparation and Writing. So let's have a look.
No matter how prepared you are for an exam, you can't help but feel some anxiety. You know, like the butterflies in your stomach and potentially forgetting everything.
Feeling some anxiety is normal as your body releases adrenaline in times of stress, which actually triggers your fight or flight response.
So here are some scientific tips to help you beat that exam anxiety.
Exam anxiety is an epidemic amongst students worldwide. One study found that out of 1,300 people questioned, 96% say that they have experienced exam anxiety at some point in their lives. And this is a problem because another study found that students who were deemed highly anxious performed 12% worse on exams than those who were slightly anxious or not anxious at all.
Exam anxiety, like all anxieties, is a spectrum, meaning that there's all sorts of symptoms and varying levels of feelings. Some people may just feel their heart beating a little bit, while others are completely debilitated with nausea and vomiting before every exam.
Getting at least 6 hours of sleep is crucial before an exam. Making sure that you are well rested will give you the confidence to face the challenge at hand. Pulling an all-nighter is a huge no-no when it comes to your brain having the ability to succeed. Mitch, you can see Nikki's slight Miley. Are you going to sleep?
I need a solid 6 hours before my exam. Studies have actually shown that those who have a balanced diet up to 1 week before an exam actually perform better than those who have a high meat or high protein diet.
I have seriously been studying so much. It's like eat, sleep, glycolysis.
Oh, here's your lunch, by the way.
Oh, thanks. What's glucose?
In fact, it's best to have a breakfast that's high in fiber and high in carbohydrates so that the energy is released slowly and your brain doesn't crash mid-exam. Losing energy quickly means losing your concentration, which means you might start to panic when you can't even answer the easy questions.
Name. What's my name? Oh God, what's the date? Positive self-imagery has been known to boost confidence and lower exam anxiety, but it only works if you set yourself realistic goals.
I will get at least an 80% on this exam, I will not fart during the test, and I'll have a banana for lunch.
Now, we are not telling you to lower your expectations, but it is not mentally healthy to expect 100% on all of your exams. So, while feeling confident before an exam is important, it's essential that you keep your feet planted on the ground.
To help de-stress, try and picture yourself in a happy moment, whatever that might be, and then quickly switch to imagining yourself in the exam room.
I'm on a boat with whales around me, humpbacks, fin whales, heck, there's even a blue whale. One comes up to me and lets me pet it, then he playfully splashes me and winks. He loves me and I am one with him. Also, glycine, alanine, valine, and leucine are all nonpolar acids, and this is how you draw them in an exam.
This helps your brain to associate those happy feelings with writing the exam and primes you to be ready. In addition, before the exam, try and picture questions that you have already studied the answers to so that it'll boost your confidence going in.
Speaking of priming, it's important that you familiarize yourself with the exam room. If the exam room isn't your classroom, make sure you take a short field trip there a few days before. This will also ensure you aren't late. By seeing the setting beforehand, it will help your brain be at ease during the exam, helping you feel more confident and perform better.
Well, hopefully you have a good circle of friends and study buddies you can work with. There's always that one Debbie Downer in the group that kind of lowers your self-confidence. This, combined with your past experience on exams, which might not have always been good, can lower your self-confidence moving into the exam. A helpful trick is to write down these insecurities on a piece of paper, and then right below them, write down a rebuttal, which makes you feel confident, then crumple up that paper and throw it away. People say I have a bad memory, but I have never forgotten somebody's birthday.
This can help you build confidence before a test, and these symbolic gestures are actually effective. One study found that anxious students who wrote down their worries before a test did better than those who didn't.
Hopefully these scientific tips will help you go into your exam with confidence, feeling much less anxious.
And unlike most trends, science is logical and never ends. Science never goes out of style.
Holla t-shirt! If you like the t-shirts we were wearing today, which say science never goes out of style, with the beautiful ASAP Science half logo, you can find out how you can get them in the description below. We just launched them. They're only available for a couple of weeks, so make sure you check it out now.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and we will see you soon for an awesome new video.
Peace.
And the Oscar goes to...
So, a humorous look at exam anxiety and ways to deal with it. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to preparing for exams. So you can see on the screen now a timetable. How do you study and prepare for exams? Do you have a system, or do you leave it to when I feel like it? What do you do when you're studying and it's just not going in? So you can see that in this particular timetable, colour coding is used. Different colours for classes and tutes, the blue, the yellow for study time, the green for some exercise, walking and sports, and pink for work. So in this particular example, colour coding really helps the person to be able to see what they're doing at different times of the day. Now, if you look at, say, Saturday, where you've got work for the whole day, and that's okay because you will generally be doing that work for the whole day and not be able to fit in study. However, if you look at, say, for example, Thursday and Friday afternoons, you've got a stretch of from 1 to 5, so 4 hours of study time. Now, it might actually be useful for you to schedule in breaks during that time. Over the years, I've heard a lot of students say when I ask them, tell me about your study, how do you actually do it? They say, well, I sit down and I just try and study. And then I ask them from what time? They say all day. And when I ask them, so are you having breaks? No. Are you taking in all the information? No. So it's really important that you schedule in breaks. And for some people, that might be that you schedule in as little as 40 minutes to an hour and then have a little break. When you notice that your mind is wandering, it might be a good idea to get up, move around, go outside in the sun, and then come back to it. It is really important that you put all your activities on a study timetable. So there's no such thing as a perfect timetable because you are the person who's in charge of it. Some people say, well, I don't have a timetable because I can never stick to it. But the thing is that you are in charge of that timetable. If you find that you can't stick to it, then you change it. If you find that you can't do a big block of study, then you change it and you make it so that you have regular breaks. And then you might, at the end of the day or at the end of a particular period of study, give yourself a little reward. So in the lead up to exams and the study period or just before, develop a study schedule and stick with it to create guilt-free time via time management skills. Prioritise. What are my priorities this week? What do I absolutely have to do this week? And then break it down to daily. I have my weekly priorities, but what do I need to achieve today? Develop a focused study space that's quiet, with limited distractions and is comfortable. Now, I know for all of us at the moment, during COVID-19, we are all at home and you might find that all your housemates or your family are at home too. So we have particular issues at this time. So I guess it's making use of what we have. Try and stay motivated with regular breaks, giving yourself rewards. Thinking about your goals using the acronym SMART. So make sure they're very specific goals. Make sure they're measurable, that they're achievable, they're realistic, and they're timely. So, for example, You know, I'm not just going to have this study day, I'm actually going to decide how much study I do and what breaks I have. It really is recommended that no more than 40 to 60 minutes without a break is important. Even just a 5-minute break is good. And also, to help us stay motivated, the skills that we've already discussed: deep breathing, calming images, diffusing our thoughts, challenging our thoughts, or developing coping statements. And ask your support system for what you need. So your family or your friends, see if they are able to support you. So looking to the lead up to exams, prepare effective study notes. And hopefully you've been taking some good, effective notes throughout the trimester. Highlighting what's important, indexing. Try and make your notes easy to read versus notes that are just scribbled and chaotic. Use visual things to prompt your memory. Different things help different people, like mind maps or flowcharts or acronyms, keywords, colour coding, and weekly topic summaries, looking at the key points. And it's obviously good to be able to do this weekly throughout the semester, but if you haven't done that, it's never too late to start. And revise your notes regularly, and then ideally throughout the trimester or throughout the study period that you have before. And some more. Know what's expected of you and what you need to do to pass. Have an idea of your progress this far and what you need to do to achieve more. Form an active, committed study group if that helps you. So that's actually an active thing that you can do. Work through samples and past exam questions, or create your own questions on key topics and quiz yourself. So that's also a very active way to approach studying. Teach the topic to someone, even yourself, or imagine teaching it, because what we teach, we know. So getting to exam day, let's look at some tips for the day itself. Look after yourself. Have a moderate breakfast and avoid excessive caffeine. Arrive early to the exam. Relax, breathe, collect your thoughts, and avoid students who generate anxiety. And during the exam, read the exam first. Allocate time to each question, but if there's a question that you're stuck on, leave it and come back to it. Do attempt all questions and try and pace yourself. If you're feeling overwhelmed, jot down notes to help free up your thoughts. Try and ground yourself. Close your eyes just for a few moments. Focus on your breathing. Consciously relax your jaw, your neck. Drop your shoulders and let go. Repeat that 3 times. And think, I can do this. And open your eyes and ground yourself by looking around the room and just noticing a few things that you see. After the exam, say to yourself, I did my best, and reward yourself. Visualisation can be really helpful with distressing thoughts, feelings, and images. So you can practice replacing distressing images with calm and relaxing ones. So visualization is a very powerful tool we can use to access the power of our mind to create the outcome we desire. Positive visualization combines a clear image of what you want to create, combined with strong positive emotion. And you can use whatever image works for you. It could be a person, it could be a really supportive, calm person in your life that you have a strong, positive connection with. It could be a place that you love and where you always feel relaxed. It could be an event. So just try and think about an image that you could use to calm yourself. And now we are going to go through a visualization for exam success. So visualization is a powerful technique used by athletes, actors, and other professionals. It does need to be as specific as possible before, during, and after the exam. So we are going to use those points in a visualization. So just take a few moments to get yourself comfortable and ground yourself in your position. Feel your feet on the floor, your bottom on the seat, and your back against the chair. It can be beneficial to close your eyes if you're comfortable. Alternatively, you might just like to lower your gaze. Take a moment to turn your attention inside and bring your focus to your breath. Take some nice, deep breaths. Feel your body expanding as the air comes in. As you exhale, allow the shoulders to let go and relax. Perhaps just gently roll them to let go of any tension and heaviness. While continuing to breathe nice and slow, I'd like you to visualize yourself on the day of your exam. You can see yourself in your mind's eye, and you're feeling calm, relaxed, and confident. And just keep breathing slowly and deeply. You notice that you're feeling strong and alert in your body and mind, and you're feeling ready to do your best in the exam. Now I'd like you to visualize yourself getting ready to start your exam. Look around. Notice where you are. Notice the things around you. You are looking ready and focused. And you feel a sense of calm, remembering your purpose for being here. And you have a sense of kindness and compassion for yourself, acknowledging the efforts that have brought you here today. As you open up your exam, you're practicing your deep breathing and centering yourself. Now I'd like you to visualize yourself reading through each of the questions on the exam. See yourself thinking about the questions, slowly and calmly, and allotting time to each one. A calm look comes across your face as you realize that you know many of the answers and you're feeling good about the exam. We're now reaching the end of this exercise, so you might like to bring your awareness back to where you are right now. Begin to feel your back against the chair and your feet on the ground. You might like to move around a little. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. So how did that visualization go? Was it hard to do, or were you able to do it? So we're reaching the end of the workshop now. So in summary, we have looked at utilising our 5 senses to ground ourselves, recognising some of our negative thinking styles, understanding how our breathing can help to calm us, challenging our stressful thoughts, using mindfulness to notice our thoughts rather than become involved with them, using coping statements, using visualization to see us doing well and staying calm, using some tactile distraction. So we hope that there are some tips during this workshop that you will be able to use. We have a number of resources, websites, which you will be able to access via some links after the workshop. And we'd like to also recommend some apps that might be useful to you. There's a SAM app, which is Self-Help for Anxiety Management. Insight Timer is another. Smiling Mind, Headspace, and Focus Booster in particular is an app that you can use to actually help you focus on your study. And here are some more resources for exam stress, which you will have available to you. So all the very best, and thank you for participating in our workshop, especially under difficult conditions for all of us. I apologise for any extraneous noise that you might have heard, because obviously we are doing this from home as well. So you can meet this challenge. You'll now have access to the useful links and copies of useful resources slide that you just saw. And also there's a post-workshop evaluation. We'd really appreciate your feedback for our team's trial. Thank you and all the best.